All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the STEM Files on OMS TV. We are no longer on Blog Talk Radio, and I repeat, we are no longer on Blog Talk Radio. I'm the founder and chief operating officer of Original Man Scientific. I'm joined by my co-host. Excuse me, did I say my name? I didn't even say my name. Okay, my name is Greek Muhammad, founder and COO of Original Man Scientific. I'm joined by my co-host, my illustrious right-hand man, Jabril.
Peace and blessings. What up, everyone? Yes, my name is Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabril Engineer. Before I go any further, please stop what you're doing, like, share this video on YouTube. Also, for all information on Original Man Scientific, you can go on social media at OMANSCI _. That's for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, that's at OMANSCI _. And our website is www.omansci.com. All right. And again, Jabril Muhammad, I am the Director of Engineering for Original Man Scientific. Very happy to be here and happy to get started.
All right, family. Thank you, Jabril. This episode is very special. This is one of the personal episodes for me because, one, the people I'm about to introduce you to, some of you may know them, some of you may not, but they play a very pivotal role in the actual history of Original Man Scientific and its role as a science and technology company. So I want to welcome Brother Scott and Sister Erica Muhammad out of Tuskegee, Alabama. Assalamu alaikum.
Praise due to Allah. Wa alaikum salam, sir.
How y'all doing, family?
Man, so far so good.
Inviting us on the show.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. And please forgive us for the technical difficulties. We are striving to overcome those. But Brother Jabril, can you go ahead and read out the bio for Brother Scott and Sister Erica?
Absolutely. I'm just going to read the first portion, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Brother Scott and Sister Erica Muhammad, they were married on October 16, 2010, on the anniversary of the Million Man March, Holy Day of Atonement. Before they were married, they worked as colleagues together in Chicago from 2001 to 2004 with the Reverend James Luther Bevel, where they first began farming and teaching children to grow food organically. While in Chicago, they also helped to organize the 9th Ward, 43rd Precinct Family Association, a community-based government at the local level, and the University of Civilization, a citizenship academy offering classes in character and community development. They also served as members of the Hebraic Christian Islamic Assembly and the National Office of the Holy Day of Atonement. Both taught classes at the United Front Carpenter School as well while in Chicago, and helped organize American Appreciation and Education Day, an annual event celebrating the signing of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Today, they serve as co-directors of Students for Education and Economic Development, S.E.E.D, Inc., a nonprofit organization incorporated in the state of Alabama, working on the issue of community food security. S.E.E.D, Inc. operates a farm school for children in grades K through 12 and an apprenticeship program matching adult apprentices with elder farmers. Before relocating to historic Tuskegee, Alabama, they served on the Economic Development Committee for Reach, Inc. And is that Utah, Alabama? Utah?
Yes, sir.
All right. So make sure I got it right. They also produce the Jubilee Film Festival each year as part of the annual Bridge Crossing Jubilee. The festival showcases films produced about the American Civil Rights Movement and provides a venue for films addressing current social problems. They are the parents of 4 children, Samira, Jamaica, Jihad, and Naeem. Got those right, too?
Yes, sir.
And Safa.
And are expecting a baby girl in time for the Jubilee this year. Awesome.
So that last part, the baby girl, she's here already. She's like 5.
Oh, okay.
Got to.
Oh yeah, 5.5. You got to put the and half in there.
5.5. I forgot to edit that part out. Right. So thank you, Jabril. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Before we go into anything as it relates to S.E.E.D, what was it like getting married on the anniversary of Holy Day of Atonement?
Well, it was interesting. We could not figure out what day of the year, and then a moment. It has to be October 16th. That's the only and best day for us to get married. And our wedding was really atonement oriented, we actually had 3 ministers. So Minister Maurice Muhammad from the Nation of, yeah, we had Pastor Gwendolyn Webb from Birmingham, Alabama. She was one of the child foot soldiers during the Civil Rights Movement. And we had Pastor Minister Dawson at the church that we were at in Utah, Alabama. So it was really bringing together of communities. And we also shared a lot of atonement principles and marriage principles during the ceremony. So it was a great organizing opportunity for us and the perfect day for it.
We wanted the theme to be in line with the Million Man March, Holy Day of Atonement. And we wanted our wedding to be bringing the 3 great movements together. So it was in the apostolic Christian church that had a big focus on buying land. And of course, you know, we had brothers came up from the nation and sisters, and we had the civil rights, nonviolent community out, and we really got it in. It was a good day.
Praise be to Allah.
Absolutely. Bro?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you know, just going over this and reading this bio and everything, it's like, on one hand, you can say, you know, you all are very accomplished. But I think, you know, on the other hand, you really can talk about the servant mentality that you both have, from just busying yourself with as many activities that allow you to give of yourself from what you've been giving, not only, you know, from what you see that needs to be done, but from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I just would like to ask, you know, as you're going through, you know, these various activities, you know, how had your definition of servitude or being a servant or serving your people like changed over time, or like kind of grown over time?
That's a great question. I'm gonna turn this light on and let Erica answer.
Okay. And for me, the first thing that comes to mind is actually learning how to be balanced, because when you have a lifetime of community service, you get to a point where you realize you also have to focus on self and family too.
Right.
So my own family doesn't need to be neglected as I serve the community. So that's kind of a lesson that I've learned through the years, and learning how to do that kind of balancing act. Not very easy, devoted to community service, but it has to be balanced. And right. It's really not fair to family members for that balance not to be there. So for me, that's been one of the lessons. And I guess another lesson is the necessity for imparting the spirit of service to the next generation. And that's really, really important, particularly in the kind of world that we live in, which is, you know, doing what you, and I don't mean that in a development kind of way, but like in a greed kind of way. That's kind of right. Society we live in. So it's really important for young people to learn how to give to the community as just part of what they do as human beings. So a lot of what we do in terms of leadership development is to allow children to become community minded, because they're members of community, even as children. And when they grow up, they'll be adult members of the community. And that in their civics understanding in terms of them as a participant, it starts with community service. And it's really great when they can learn that at an early age.
It's a lot. For me, I'm trying to remember the whole question.
So just generally speaking, it was, how has your definition of service really grown over time as you've engaged service in so many different areas throughout your lives?
Wow, I really appreciate that question, brother. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For me, it's really, alhamdulillah. The minister had a tweet, and I hate when I can't get it word for word.
Yes, sir.
But basically, he was saying, you know, blessed are you when you find your purpose, but like even more blessed are you when you know. But the process of becoming your purpose is like almost like the process of losing weight, because you come towards your destiny with a lot of baggage, a lot of material that you're not going to need on your journey. But you may not know that. So almost certainly you won't know that at the outset. There are going to be things that you have to leave or drop or be separated from along the way.
Yes, sir.
And further, if I can give an example, you know, you know, look like the ones that it's like all the children time. So like my daughter, bitty, knock on my 37, and we have a steady stream, you know, and for me, married man, part of your question of service is how I relate to my wife, you know.
Okay, yes, sir.
My wife has a ministry that is wholly separate from me. She had it before she met me, you know, and so I have to respect her ministry. And part of her ministry is educating children. And so, you know, sometimes I want my husband time. You know, it's like, hey, it's my husband time, you know, and one little children fail and they bleed and they don't go home to their mama. They come over here, you know, whatever the problem is. So I have to surrender, you know, her to that kind of service because I see the yield it produces, you know. So it's a lot of surrender, you know, when you are becoming your purpose, everything that is not your purpose, it got to go.
That's right.
You know, and then like you become challenged to the little selfish spaces that I personally have. You know, hey, this is man's, and it's like, no, it ain't. Who told you that? It ain't yours. It belongs to Allah. Give it up. You know, and so it's that kind of thing. So this has been a big learning year for me. And hold on, turn that light on for me, son, please. Thank you. That's a little better. I'm all dark sitting next to my light skinned wife. Y'all can't even see me. I'm a have memes and jokes on me online. So, but that's the big part of it. I posted on it because my wife was gone. Her dad was, and so she and my children were in, and you know, she came home a week, 6 weeks or whatever, and you know, they were all in the house, and I said, well, look, I'm about some things. Let's just go take a walk. And we walked out the door, got flash mob, like twitters, bam, Sister Erica, Sister Erica, Sister Erica. And so my whole evening, my whole walk, it was gone for the rest of these children, you know. And you know, I was complaining internally. I was like, man, I want to take a walk with my wife. Couldn't even do that. And so the next day, because the lobby listening, the next day we were driving.
Uh-oh. Y'all still there?
My truck. I just ended up having to walk home, so we had our walk after all. Oh no! Uh-oh.
Wow. So you ended up getting a walk after all?
Hey, can you hear us now?
A little bit. You're going in and out.
Sir?
You were going in and out. Say something again.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I was getting into the story about the walk too.
Well, I'm too alive.
Yes, sir.
Well, where did we leave off?
So basically, you were talking about the going out, you're talking about service, and you were talking about surrendering. Then you talking about going out, trying to walk and getting flash mob, and then that's where they got kind of fuzzy.
So I was saying, I was complaining internally,
Yes, sir.
about that, and the God was listening. So the next day, we took my son to his music lesson, and I had just gotten my truck back from a mechanic. And on the way home, the truck stopped. And so we ended up having to walk home. So we got our walk after all.
Wow.
And I said, the Lord was laughing at us, Tariq. All the way home. It's like, got your walk now, don't you, boy?
Right. So,
oh, man.
One thing I kind of wanted to go into a little bit more is agriculture. And when I think about what you all have done, I think about agriculture in general. In the Nation of Islam, there's a ministry devoted solely to agriculture. And you also have the concept of being a consumer and then being a producer. I guess, why is agriculture so deserving of its own ministry? And why is it so important and crucial for our people in particular to understand the science of agriculture to better their lives?
Mm.
Those are excellent questions. He ain't playing, is he?
No.
Okay. Would you like?
I'll start.
Yes, ma'am.
But since we all eat every day,
yes,
it's imperative that we know how to grow food. So that's the fundamental part right there. However, there's a difficulty. Two main difficulties. Of one, that's not really taught in schools at all, how to grow food. Some schools might teach it. Most schools don't teach it. So children are not learning how to grow. And then we have a particular issue too, in terms of being descendants of slaves. We have an aversion to agriculture that we inherited. So we have to cure, and that's really more in the grown-ups, and then the children don't have that, but they'll learn it. Hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, so the children actually love agriculture, but because grown-ups don't love agriculture, they're not introducing the children to it.
Right.
So children never get a chance to discover that they love agriculture. I don't think I've met a child yet who doesn't love getting their hands in the soil and making something, and it just changes you to make something happen. So exactly. So for me, that's why it deserves to be a ministry unto itself, because it's the foundation of our lives.
Right.
We are not producing food, and we really can't sustain our life. And you have another situation that you really see very much down here in the South with all this farmland, but a lot of the children are not interested at all in maintaining the air property with the farmland on it. And so you don't have a next generation learning to farm the land, which is a very frightening thing, because the elder farmers, they're going to die off, and then those young people are just not there. So agriculture education is really imperative in terms of being able to produce food both locally and nationally. And it really has to be pushed as a ministry to make sure that happens and that continuity of farmers happens.
Mm-hmm. And then, additionally, there's several things to be said about it as to why it deserves its own ministry. A ministry is a service.
Right.
It is a governmental service. A minister is a servant. A ministry is a service. It's an institutional service. It's a structure that allows for services to be organized and implemented and administrated. And when you deal with the Ministry of Agriculture, you're dealing with how man interacts with his ecology. Now, your economy comes out of your ecology.
Yes.
And you have to understand that the philosophies about how man interacts with man, based on production and productivity. In other words, your economic philosophy comes out of your relationship with God, with fellow man, and with the land.
Right.
So like a lot of times we may say something like my wife says, Sister Erica says, well, the children, they have this air property, but they're not interested in farming the land. And for some people who have become so disconnected, that might sound like, well, yeah, they might not want to be farmers. But what she's actually saying is they don't know the science of making the land productive.
Right.
Here's land. I don't know how to make it productive.
Right.
I might cut the grass and then I'm just sitting there looking at it. And it's like, well, hey man, your money comes out of that.
Right.
Your food come out of that. Your
Right.
clothes come out of that. Alabama right now is big. It produces, I think, less than 0.1% of its food.
Something like that.
And everything else is up in timber.
Mm.
And this timber is what they make houses out of and other structures. Now, just consider that Hurricane Michael just destroyed a whole swath of Florida's timber industry.
Right.
Okay, I think to the tune of over just about $2.1 billion. I think it might have said worth of timber land was destroyed, and not only the timber, but the mills to process the timber.
Right.
Say, well, what's the big deal? Well, if Hurricane Florence come through South and North Carolina and Virginia and flood and destroy houses, and Houston had houses flooded and destroyed, and California has houses burned and destroyed, what do you need to rebuild those houses? You need timber.
That's right.
And it's just been destroyed, so it's like, nah, we have to like begin to understand, like when you say, hey man, ain't no spook god, you say, okay, where houses come from? You say, well, me and build them out of what?
Right.
Either they digging up soil and making bricks, or they cutting down trees and making joists and planks and the materials needed for wood framed housing. You know what I mean? So it's and whatever you do, everybody do one thing every day, multiple times, and that's eat. Okay, everybody eating, and if they not, they want to be. And so when you look at an armies travel on their stomachs.
Right.
You know, so it's like if you want to have a nation, man, it begins with land and it begins with agriculture. It is absolutely the first science that God taught the man, according to Genesis. He taught Cain how to farm the land,
Yes, sir.
and then taught his brother animals. So that's why ministry and we have to be very serious about it. And we have a ministry in the Nation of Islam, but our farm in Georgia can't feed everybody.
Right.
Our farm in Michigan can't feed everybody.
Right.
We have to have local food growing with access to it in order to begin to realize food security.
And on the food security idea too, that's another purpose for a agriculture ministry, is you need to know who in your community is having hunger issues. That should be known so that can be remedied. But I see that's one of the functions of the Ministry of Agriculture, to make sure that no one is actually going hungry, because it's actually so much food in this country. There's no reason for anyone to be hungry. So that is another function of that ministry.
And the agenda that Brother Farrakhan and he pulled together some of the best minds in the Black community in the early 90s. And I can't remember what the name of that book was, but it's an agenda. And it opens up saying that every human need, so these ministries exist to protect the health interest, rights, and needs of the citizen.
Right.
You know, so if it's a human need, there has to be a way to facilitate and administrate the fulfilling of that need. And that's why you have a Ministry of Agriculture.
Wow. Well, I think as beautiful as you said the question was, the answer was that beautiful and times and times and times more. So thank y'all so much.
Praise is due to Allah. Well, you got us over here feeling like buttered biscuits now, man.
Nah, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing better than feeling like a buttered biscuit. Yeah. But no, but I mean it. Like, that was a really good answer. I think how you broke down the relationship between ecology and economy, I think that was key. How people really don't understand how much comes from the land, and how people talk about, well, you know, land depreciates in value, da da da. But at the end of the day, when you look, no matter what you do, a business, no matter what you have, whatever you have a product or a service, you're either your product is coming from the land, and your service is in some way, shape, or form you're operating on the land. So whoever controls that land is going to control what you're doing or what you're producing in some way, shape, or form. So it's very important.
That's right.
Understanding of that, you know. So Tariq, I'll turn it over to you though.
Yeah, I just want to bear witness. The food security aspect is so key, because I've watched people in my neighborhood when I was living in Virginia at the time. I watched people in my neighborhood go hungry, and when I got involved with S.E.E.D in the Richmond chapter, we were able to help reduce some of the hunger in our communities, purely because we taught them how to farm and the basics of agriculture and what it means to your community. So my question comes from agriculture itself, in terms of why you two like it personally. What was it about agriculture that made you say, okay, this is what I want to use to help people for the rest of my life?
For me, I really got involved in it when I was working with Reverend Bevel. And we were working actually on the issue of murder in Chicago. And as we were working on that, he introduced me to, he wasn't calling the S.E.E.D, he introduced me to a idea he had called the 9th Ward, 43rd Precinct Murders, you know, and I was there. And the ward was dead last in education and economics. And what happened was I went out, you know, he told me what he wanted to do, and myself and like his farm manager, we went out, man, and we spent some money and raising resources for this. And when we were going around telling people what we were doing, we were like, man, we taking these, got gang members, we got little children, just farm, and we growing our own food. And we're going to split the money with them and open them up Young Savers account at Seaway National Bank. And people us what we needed. We didn't have a grant. We didn't have any money. We just had a determination. We had a resolve that we were going to do something. And so we started doing it, and like the gates opened up, and I experienced personal freedom. It was like every day we got up, you know, 5 a.m. We would sell fruit bags on the, you know, on intersections. And then we would head out to this farm, you know, with a van full of children. And as we were farming, you know, I was looking at the soil and I was learning, you know, he was teaching me about the soil, and I learned how to enrich the soil. So we were taking, like he was showing me, well, this is sandy loam. This is clay loam. Okay, this is a good mixture in between. And well, we're going to add this manure to it. And I'm watching the value of the land increase by what we were doing on it. And then when we got plants, man, and started planting them, and I'm watching these things grow, and then I'm watching the fruit grow. And you had, if you ain't had a tomato that you done picked off of a vine that you grow on yourself, you literally have not had a tomato, because what you get from the stores, those ain't tomatoes. They have less than 50% of the nutrients that they did 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, they had lost a lot of nutrition. We've lost a lot of the mineral content in our soils. So that's why you see fat people, you know, they're getting the calories from eating stuff, but the mineral and nutrient content ain't there. So the body is still craving, you know, these nutrients and stuff. Right. So, you know, we out there, man, and see what happens. And the minister spoke to this when we were doing a presentation for him. When you put your hand in the soil, it does something to your mind.
Right.
Can y'all still hear it? Put your hands in the soil, it does something to your mind.
That's right.
You know, it begins to fix things. Yeah. And there, and you sweating, and you oil, man. I mean, it's all bit by the bug, as they say. And it was over, man. Once you get bit by the farming bug, that's it.
That's right.
I was going to say too about that bug. Anybody who gets bit, they can't go back. Even my mom, she's from Brooklyn, and once she got her hands in the soil, she planting every year now.
Wow.
And expanding her garden.
Yeah, and just can't help it. But that is what it's like when you get bit by the bug. And I guess for me too, part of why I see this as a lifelong mission. It has a lot to do with graduate. They should be able to research, develop, produce, and market at least one agriculture product. And then by the time they graduate to 12th grade, they should be able to research, develop, produce, and market at least one industrial product. And the whole idea is if they can do one product, they can do any product.
Yeah.
So they are learning the science of production. They're learning agricultural production and production. What all children need is anything on the market. So these are lifelong skills for the children, and we give them a taste of it, but then they can develop that, you know, as deep as they want to, and create their own businesses. And so to me, that's part of why it's a lifelong mission.
And let me say this too, you know, and what Sister Erica was just saying, we are like, in my class, we are the first students for education and economic development, meaning we went through the course first. And what you learn about agriculture, you know, I hear people say, oh, agricultural expert such and such. Oh, I don't know about that. Because it's always so much. It's an overwhelming amount of stuff to learn. You know, go with agriculture, you can go as small as just studying the relationships between plants that grow next to each other. You know, like they call it companion planting. Right. So I plant tomatoes, I plant basil next to it because they have a beneficial relationship. They help grow one another, helps the yield, etc. But the variations of combinations of plants you can grow next to each other, fit one another, and the combination of insects and stuff like that, or growing tall plants to help eat plants and and it's the field. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I come up on the field and I need a soil test, but I don't have access to one, can I look at the plants that are in the field and know enough about their nature to know what nutrients are present in the field? And that's why those plants are there.
Right.
Or to know that this soil over here is compact. So this particular plant likes, or what we would call a weed, likes a compact soil. This one likes arable. This one likes flood plain or swampish. And so you can walk onto a field and not have a soil test, but begin to ascertain the nature of the soil by what's already growing there. So it's so much to learn. It's a completely hard science when you deal with agronomy that has in it biology, chemistry, diet, and entomology, just out of the gate. You know, so that those are some of the attractive things I think that are in it for us.
And then I just want to also add, there's so much discovery and creation involved with agriculture. So you can look forward every spring to doing something new that you haven't done before, and learning something new that you haven't learned before, and creating something new you haven't created before. So I just wanted to show one of our creations here.
Nice.
Right.
And this is, I guess you would just call it seed breeding because it didn't exist before. But we started this when we were out in Greene County, growing butternut squash and spaghetti squash right next to each other. And this is what came out of it.
Yeah. And it's bigger than either one of them. Like I can get these up to 10 or 11 pounds.
Wow.
You know, all organic, sweet, beautiful, and very prolific, you know, and they'll cycle, you know, so I have one more cycle at this point, but the vines have grown because it's been a little warm. And if we have an extended warmth, like say through November, I'll pull another 5, 6 of them, you know, out before the year is out, maybe 7.
Wow.
At the store, you know, these may go for $2, maybe $3. Here it's probably 4 pounds, you know. But this
Yes, sir. Free.
Yeah, well, I just want to bear witness to agriculture doing the things that they describe in terms of fixing things when you put your hands in the soil and just being able to have control over your environment. I love it. You know, I love it. My next question is in regards to the academic setting. You talked about being able to learn agriculture, biology, chemistry, diet, and nutrition, and different things of that nature, even some aspects of engineering. What can you see more benefit in the S.E.E.D curriculum than a young person would going to a traditional college setting and learning the same material?
Yes, sir. Let me tell you why. The intention, like for me, you know, I like how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it. He said, education is bringing out of a person what's in them. And we've learned, Brother Farrakhan talked about it not so long ago. He said, and hold on, maybe Jihad. Sorry, somebody's at the door.
Yes, sir.
He was talking about abortion. And he was saying, you know, when a person, when there's community, that exists fulfillment need through a child that's being born, male or female, right? And we know in our community, we got tremendous need.
Right.
We got tremendous need. So we know that each child that's being born now has the potential answer in he or she for these questions, these problems, questions, issues, or needs that's in front of us, right? Okay, you compound that with, if I can give an analogy, my house is on fire and my family is in the house. The only thing I'm interested in learning is firefighting, search and rescue, first aid, anything, you know what I mean? Right. Just don't even qualify. If I were, dealing with the question of children and our generation, curriculum allows us the space and opportunity to help children in their own right. So they don't just learn about production. They have to actually go produce. So if you look at our videos on our page, it's not me and Erica digging the garden, and then when the tomatoes come up, we call children over and say, "Hey, pose with this tomato." See, we don't do that.
Right.
The children dig the garden. That way, if somebody, God forbid, come and take me off or take my family off somewhere, and they self, you got to do more than preach that Jonah went to Nineveh. You got to go to Nineveh. So we kind of have for a long time had a lot of people eating around the edge of the bread. You got to learn, how do you tackle that sandwich? So we take our children to Nineveh.
Yes, sir.
And they have to do what they do there. Wow. Okay, hold on. Well, why don't you come and answer your half of the question? Brother Tariq asking science questions over here, and I will find that for you.
All right. And if you could repeat the question for me.
Absolutely. So the question was, in the S.E.E.D curriculum, you have agriculture, biology, chemistry, diet, nutrition, some aspects of engineering. Do you see more benefit in the S.E.E.D curriculum than someone would in a traditional academic setting like college or high school?
Valuable, particularly elementary through high school. I think it's valuable because we introduce children to a variety of and that they can actually have some kind of idea what they might want to do as a trade or going to college, where particularly where we are exposed to a lot of different careers. Want to join the children want to do that. Want to be a policeman or a firefighter, but it's variety in terms of the things that children are thinking about doing as a career. So we like to introduce them to different areas like that, in particular agriculture and industry. For instance, we have a field trip coming up this week. We're going to the, and we're going to have a tour of the climate lab there by one of the biologists on campus. And opportunity like that, we need more involved in climate science, but you have to start at an early age because you have to have a lot of high mathematics in order. You have to have to focus a lot of in the elementary ages, and they're often neglected in these higher sciences. But that's one area where I think we're very effective in terms of bringing the university down to even the elementary level. Another project we are working on is bringing construction science to the children here in the community where we are. That's the whole school at the university, science and architecture.
Right.
And it's really interesting, but you don't know it's really interesting unless you get exposed to it. So one of the trips we did during our summer farm school this year, we went to the School of Architecture and we spent the day there, and they had a tour, and it was really wonderful.
Can you repeat
You
that?
have a
You're breaking up.
whole room set up with different models, architecture models that might not know they're interested. Is this a little better?
Yes, ma'am.
Better?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I was saying a child might not know they're interested in something like architecture if they're not exposed to it. It's different if you have a mother or a father who's an architect and you're exposed to it like that, but what if they're not?
Right.
So these introductions to the different sciences are really important, particularly for me, at the younger ages. So they are exposed to many different options, and they can start developing a feel of what they're called to do. Because every child has a calling, every child has a gift, skill, talent, and virtue that they were sent to earth to share with the rest of us. But if we as adults don't nurture that, then they won't have an idea of what their particular gift is that they were born to bring to us. So it's really important.
Absolutely. When it comes to the children, the young people, what has been your most what has been the greatest highlight so far in working with the children and showing them what their purpose is, or something that they may want to take a little further as they go to adult?
Well, I know I always enjoy, I guess you could call it like a point of takeoff with agriculture, because they get to a point where they can do it themselves, can't stop them. And that's always so exciting and beautiful to see. So we see them all the time. They'll come get tools and run over across to the field and do what they can do. And just to see that kind of initiative is really exciting to me. So that's always a highlight.
For me, I guess every experience yields, its own highlights. I tell you this, this whole neighborhood is transforming, and everybody sees it. We were called into at the office of the housing authority several months ago, and one of the administrators, I beg your pardon, she put this big old thick folder on the table. It looked like an encyclopedia, and it was full of police reports. And she was like, "These are the police reports from the year before you came." And then she pulled out another one, a little looking envelope like this. Had 4 reports. If this is reports from the year since you've been here, it was reduced to 4.
Wow.
A big part of that is what America does. We arrest, and then we allow our civilizers to begin to civilize the community. And you become an example to that community. And so we have an open marriage, but it's righteously open. It don't mean it's open that people can come in and out, but it's open for examination by all of our neighbors.
Right.
So people watch us, So that means when we wake up in the morning, you wake up on your square, and you stay on your square the whole day, and you go to bed on your square.
Right.
And you guard your marriage. You guard it. It's very important to guard your marriage. So a big part of what we learn working in the atonement process we began as students to study and learn the science of marriage. And now as students, we apply that. So I'm a student husband and this is my student wife.
Right.
You feel me? And we learn it, you know, and so like the children, our students join our family, you know, and that's a big part of that surrender that I was talking about earlier. You know, in terms of service, you say, well, where's the line at? And soon, you know, you get way out there with it. We got one young brother that's processing now, you know, and there are a lot more that want to, you know. For me, the instruction, the way I understand it, was to make all men and boys join the FOI.
Go ahead.
Well, what does join mean? Out into the field, they all come and join me at work, you know. And then it's like, what am I doing that I can call people to?
Right.
Right. So when you begin to surrender to the purpose that Allah put you here for, then people can come and work with you and find their purpose working with you, working on yours.
Wow.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it works. It's lawful and it's good, you know, and that's one of the reasons we say all praise is due to Allah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bro.
So Brother Tariq and I, in addition to what we're doing with Original Man Scientific, we've worked in the Ministry of Science and Technology. And I think one of the core things with that ministry is a big part of it is to help in the processes and the growth and development of the other 8 ministries. As you see it, both in your understanding of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Science and Technology, how can the Ministry of Science and Technology be of benefit and work with the Ministry of Agriculture for mutual benefit going forward?
Can I look? There is a science that we were given,
right?
That it's a technology, and it's called the science of atonement, and it runs with the science. Read y'all some. Found this we in our archives, and this was a letter, I believe. I don't know if it was a letter or if it was from an address that Reverend Bevel gave to some of the ministers in the nation, March 31st, 1997. So they were building towards the 1997 Holy Day of Atonement. Was that one at the United Nations?
No,
that was the year before the World Day of Atonement. So this was the following year, and this is what it says. This is how it opens up. It says, atonement is the act of seeking, asking, and knocking, and until an appropriate response is attained from God, Allah. Atonement is necessary because as creatures of a contradictory culture, we live not according to the laws of Allah's kingdom, the rules and regulations and the attitudes and the dispositions in the culture that are in opposition to Allah's law. We are therefore alien to Allah, His kingdom, and our own nature.
Sure.
We are a part of a manifested unjust nation and world. At our best, we can only be moral, but we cannot manifest Allah's kingdom until we are reconnected to Allah. We therefore must confess, repent, ask for forgiveness, forgive others, and experience being forgiven for our disconnectedness and the subsequent sin and crime that derive from there. After we are reconnected to Allah and surrender to His will, we make constitutional motions and take constitutional actions that are in the interest of all people, the nation, and the world. When these motions are made and actions are taken and carried out, it awakens the masses and exposes those who perpetrate the darkness and profit from the darkness. We must see that the atonement in America is a gift from Allah and has been entrusted into the hands of the Nation of Islam. This, my brothers and sisters, puts a grave responsibility upon the Nation of Islam, for you, in effect, have been entrusted with the Ark of the Covenant. You are not one of the Negro civil rights organizations. You are a royal priesthood in the world. You are Allah's representatives in the world. So you must let your light so shine that men see your good work and glorify not you nor the Nation of Islam, but your God and the nation's God, Allah. That was a couple of paragraphs, his opening statement to a group of ministers as they were preparing in March of 97 for the Holy Day of Atonement. There was so much energy in this meeting. I was reading through some of the ministers' comments from Brother Farrakhan and others, and what they were looking at doing through the atonement. And they were breaking down the science and technology of atonement. But along the way, something obviously occurred where, as far as people go now, is they might memorize the 8 steps.
Right.
But memorizing the 8 steps without putting them into application,
right,
ain't going to help you. So what the brother was saying, and this is a man the minister described as an angel who brought from Allah the idea of atonement as the theme of our holy day, which is really the only thing that we can have, because it's the process of how a disconnected man reconnects to God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. And so, like, sometimes when we talk science and technology, we may look at shiny equipment and stuff of that nature.
Right.
But some of the best technologies that have revolutionized the world have been very simple, like the wheel.
Right.
It helped man get from one place to another a little bit quicker.
Yes, sir.
And I would submit to you and to anybody else that there's nothing more critically, primarily important than us becoming reconnected with God and reconciled with one another. And that from that space, all appropriate sciences will come.
And one of the things that happens from reconnecting with God is getting back into that creative mind of God, which is our nature.
Yeah.
But being distant from our nature, we lose all of that creativity. But one of the functions of the creativity is that there is no problem that you can run into that you can't come up with some kind of unique solution to that problem. And that's what we're kind of lacking right now, are those unique solutions to the present day crises and problems that we are all faced with at any level, whether it be in your home, in your community, in your nation, or in your world. It's the creative minds who are going to solve these problems as they show up. So that's why atonement is so critical right now, because we're so much farther away from God than we were in 1995. It's even more needed now than it was back then. So, it's really time for a resurrection of that science and technology.
Wow.
When you think about atonement and the hard sciences that we described earlier, like the ag, the bio, the chem, have you been able to see atonement in those sciences?
I can give one example. Culture. is something called regenerative agriculture. And the whole idea of regenerative agriculture is healing the land from the abuse that we have done to the land in terms of modern day agriculture, chemicals that have been used and not taking care of the soil, not nurturing the soil. So that's a way to repair the damage that has been done to our soils. So that would be one example of that.
That's like atoning for the violation of the earth, our violation of the earth. You know, the same with the violation of ourselves, and so like it's all through it. You know, when we started with the children, you know, I am not what you call a business major. You know, I that's not me. I'm not the brother with, you know, the new car and the shiny shoes with, you know, that can discuss all these different brilliant business concepts. I'm very slow on that, you know. I am
That's got
working, you know, to educate myself so that I'm not holding my lack of business knowledge. Yes, however, I was saying I'm working to educate myself in my organization, my lack of business. However, it's something when the man begins to learn to be loving and true, then you can move logic to logic. And Reverend Bevel used to tell me, say, man, just be like all my children make money that they create themselves with product, you know, and read the limit from their value-added product. It's a very interesting thing. See, because one of the things that we have to atone for is for failure to provide economic opportunity for our young people.
Wow.
We have to atone for not engaging our youth in proper and appropriate manner. You know, I have to atone for, you know, the minister, he talks about atoning, you know, for the sins of humanity. And that's my leader. So now I have to atone for all of that. Agree to with no condition or precondition of anything from them. I have to give what's called unconditional love as part of a process of my atonement. So in atonement, when you say the word atonement, that's actually the fifth step. That's where you repair or make recompense, right? And so these are acts that I have to do in my community. And so I'm saying that to say it's very interesting that there are people at Tuskegee University with PhDs that can't put $1 in a child's pocket without a grant. And here me and Eric are in the projects, no money, no grants, and all our children making money. We keep records. See, because in the business, you know, again, in business, you got 4 things you have to do. You got to keep accounts, minutes, records, and receipts. And we have those things, you know. And so I'm looking at our children making money. And so now that we have initiated an action, we've sustained an action, we're maintaining this action, now we're looking to improve and expand on that business idea. And all of these are things that I learned in my atonement class. I sat in class and I had to learn this. And here's one of their products. I don't know if you can see it. They make sand art terrariums. Y'all won't even be able to see this in a
Okay. Yes, sir. I see a little bit.
Daytime. But it's different colored sands. And Brother Tariq, I think we had just started dealing with that when you were there. I got pictures of Brother Tariq and 3 or 4 other young brothers sitting in a pile of money, you know, that they
yeah,
and we was, you know, and see, I'm not a businessman, Brother Jabril, so I didn't know how much money I was losing. We was splitting it. These terrariums, we would buy all of the materials
right
with the brothers. I remember one of the brothers said, I gotta pay gas for you to drop me off. I said, hey man, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, but they will make fun our processes. And so, you know, now the children and me and Eric and the children, it's dark out here now, but like if it were, we got a whole garden of succulents out here, you know, and this is what, like, so during, they don't miss a beat, you know, and when we were doing the Tariq, I think we had our cheapest one right now is 15, and we just fly. Don't work for activity. You know, we can be full-time servants, and it's sacrifice at the top. But now we're to a place, you know, I don't work a job. You know, this is what we do. You know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I can definitely bear witness. Those were some those products can definitely help pay your bills. That's for sure. They were very attractive to a lot of people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to set up outside like Walmart or Sam's Club and kind of just it was amazing. People were flocking to those products because the children were able to create something that was so attractive. Each and every one of those terrariums looked like gold.
Wow.
And they were buying them left and right. It was a great experience, and it taught a lot of financial literacy. It taught a lot about manufacturing, how to take care of your product while it's going from one place to another. So it's just a lot of lessons being learned in each step, in each step of the process. So I definitely think
you got to come down, brother, and see where we are with it now. Mm-hmm. And like I would like for you to be able to take some of this back to Atlanta with you,
okay,
and use it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because it. Well, we'll talk about it. You know, we're actually preparing. We're actually preparing for an East Coast tour with our film festival in January. So January, the first part of January, we're going up to Massachusetts. We've been invited to speak at the NOFA conference. Wow. And then we are planning on going from there to Maine. Our terrariums, we have a sister city up there, the Tuskegee sister city, South Berwick, and the terrariums have really got a lot of attention up there. So we've been asked to come and do a terrarium class. We'll do our film festival there. Sister Erica does a vegan cooking class. She invented a burger called the S.E.E.D burger.
S.E.E.D burger.
And it's out of all seeds and stuff. It's real nice. And we'll be going through Richmond, Brother Tim, Sister Zatima and them.
Okay.
We'll be going through Willingsboro, New Jersey. Say again?
Y'all plan on going through Philly?
Through Philly?
Yes, sir.
That's what Jabril is.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Yes,
well, we're out talking because we'll be in the woods, brother.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right in Willingsboro, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Willingboro. I'm sorry. mangled
All
the
right,
name of
Willingsboro.
the
Yes,
town.
sir. Yes, sir.
You in Philly?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, you down the street. We'll talk.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So that's we'll be doing that in January.
Okay.
But we'll also be preparing um for our spring opening of our Atonement Memorial Garden.
Wonderful.
So that's what we really excited about. That's where we actually get to walk our atonement out. You know what I mean?
Can you shed a little bit more light on the Atonement Memorial Gardens and the purpose of it and how that came about?
Yes, sir. Well, initially, when we were working with Reverend Bevel, Father of Atonement, we were I came because of the war on murder he was talking about. Um, that microphone went off. Are we muted? Can y'all hear us?
We can
Okay.
hear you.
So we had 666 murders in Chicago, and I started tracking them. We started working on it, so on and so forth. And in the interim, while we were working on that, we got involved with the S.E.E.D program. Reverend Bevel transitioned. Sister Erica and I got married, and we started the S.E.E.D program in Utah. But my primary drive had been the war on murder. And so when we did that presentation for the minister, and he was, very inspired by it, I had never mentioned to him the war on murder, but that was still on my heart, very, very strong to do. And so I I had an opportunity to share with Brother Farrakhan the idea of the war on murder, and he flew Sister Erica, myself, and one other person out to Chicago, and we did a whole presentation for him on it, and he was just like literally blown away. He was like, "You got to do this, man. You drop everything you do and come to Chicago and do this." And I was like, "Yes, sir." Then he was sitting there. He said, "But I keep thinking about them children with that money in their hand in Alabama. What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I just want to help you." He said, "Where you want to be?" I said, "Wherever you need me to be."
Yes,
you
sir.
know. And he said, "Okay, I'm gonna give you a call back, and we're gonna talk about it." And so we didn't talk again for maybe a year until right before 10/10/15. I think it was that June. He called me up to do a piece at the Salon restaurant. But in the interim, since I saw how excited he was about the war on murder, Sister Erica has a saying about creating an elegant solution to problems. Where your face at? There we go. He do that on purpose, y'all. That ain't me.
Yes, sir.
But she always talks about having an elegant solution to problems, meaning the least amount of motion to cover the most amount of things. And so we came up with this idea of doing an atonement memorial garden where we find the victims of murder in the city and memorialize them in the garden. And so we just finished meeting with the people we needed to meet with to get some more of the murder demographics. We'll be reaching out to the families over these next couple of weeks. We will be interviewing the families and creating a documentary on the murder victims. And part of that is, like as we go through and we research these murders, man, the articles, it's like, yeah, well, a nigga dead, a nigga had some weed a year ago and that nigga deserved to be dead, you know. So we know that there is an assault on the image of the black male through media, movies, and music, you know. And you can take that many steps further and you can say, okay, a black child, any child in America, but black children in particular, they sit down, they watch a movie, they see a bunch of murders. Then they turn on the radio and you hear about I'm a murder, 100 niggas today. It's nigga getting killed, nigga murder, nigga killing, nigga, you know, all this stuff, right? But then they can sit down at their video game and become a character that murders thousands.
Right.
Graphically, brutally, lifelike, you know, so we've become desensitized to murder.
Right.
So we want to humanize these souls that have been murdered. We want to resensitize our children to what the loss of life is like. And we want to make our atonement. And so I try not to go on and on about this, but when the minister came down, he called Tuskegee, or the seminal stage of the kingdom of God. And we know from the study of seminal fluid that it's alkaline in its composition, and its job to neutralize the acidity of the vaginal tract so that the seed,
that's right,
the seed can make it to the egg without being killed.
Right.
So we knew we were the seed, and this was the seminal fluid.
Right.
But when we started working on the Atonement Memorial Garden, where we atone for all of these murders, we atone for allowing, as men, for allowing our communities to degenerate to this condition. You know, when we started working on it, we were able to get the first 4 steps. We were able to point out the wrong, murder is wrong, the conditions that lead to murder, miseducation, economic exploitation, sexual perversity, malnutrition. We're able to point these wrongs out. We're able to trace the problem back to ourselves and see that we had a contribution to this wrong. So second step is to acknowledge the wrong. And then by confessing the wrong, you can see where you had a contribution. And then through your repentance, which is the 4th step, you can pull that wrong out. You know what I mean? You can create now the opposite behavior. But for the 5th step, which is the actual atonement, the making the expiation, the repairing of the damage, right, we were stuck. We were stuck. We found all of these mothers and family members of the murder victims, and we said we were sorry, but they weren't made whole.
Right.
They were hurting, man. So Allah blessed us. We called together an auditing team. The minister told us to learn Dianetics. So we got some Dianetic auditors who came through. And I know Miss Crenshaw is probably watching. Got to shout one of our Gold Star mothers, Miss Crenshaw, out. Miss Crenshaw lost her first child when her husband came home from the war and beat their 2-year-old to death. She lost her second child when 2 of her sons were shot up. One lived, one died. Was carrying that weight of all that grief on her heart and in her back. So when I met her, she really couldn't walk. She was on a walker. But me and another brother had to kind of help her ease along. So we called these auditors together, and we asked Miss Crenshaw and some of the other mothers to come out and sit through an auditing session. Came out 2 days in a row. I mean, I think the sister Patricia audited her for 4 hours the first day and 2 or 3 the next. But when she came out that session, she was strutting on that walker. And she came out, she said, y'all, I let him go. She said, I let my son go today. He's in a better place. And she sat down and she began to weep, man. And she said, I didn't know I could feel happy again. Then we had another mom, same thing. She had 2 sons. Both of them got shot up. One lived, one died. But she was a very quiet lady, very beautiful, quiet sister. And she was testifying like she was at church. And while she was talking, Miss Crenshaw got up, threw away her plate, and on her way back to her seat, realized she had left her walker at her chair.
Wow.
And she looked down at her feet. She said, oh, my God. And brother Robin out of Atlanta, he was tapping. He was saying, man, look, she walking. Get it on your phone. So I whipped my phone out. I started filming. And she said, y'all, I haven't been able to. She said, I can walk. And she was still bent over. She stood up straight. I think she said 6 months. And at that moment, the war on murder began. The acronym for War on Murder Begins is WOMB, the wound. So when we completed our fifth step of atonement, of the atonement cycle, where we actually, of Allah, were able to begin the damage done to the families. We now had the seed, the seminal fluid, and the wound.
Wow.
The sixth step now. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. The sixth step is forgiveness. See, on ourselves. We always try. So the idea of forgiving people who didn't need that ain't talk to me, we got, in order to reconcile that, we got to walk the first steps, or 6 steps out the wrong and self first. Acknowledge that wrong, confess that wrong to God first, then the person or persons that you violated, right? Repent. Now I'm doing the opposite behavior. Now I got to make some kind of expiation. I can't tell you what the expiation going to be. Right. We went looking with the resolve that we were going to make an atonement, and God showed it the rest. I'm not a Dianetic auditor, couldn't do nothing, but he gave us auditors who began the process of healing these mothers, so that atonement cycled through. Yes, and sir. So now, though, we got to get into this area of how do you forgive? Right. How do you forgive yourself for your contribution to the loss of your loved one? How do you forgive those who took something from you that they could not replace? It's getting heavy now. Wow. So that's what the atonement portion of the atonement memorial garden is. And
Scott, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can hear you fine.
Okay.
You have another question?
Yes, sir. Well, we actually coming up on the conclusion of the show, and I just want to say it has been truly an honor, and I definitely appreciate the both of you taking the time out of your Sunday evening,
right,
to join us tonight. One of the yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of the last questions that we like to ask our guests is, say for example, Safa came up to you, came up to the both of you and asked you, what does science mean to you as a person, individually? Mom, Dad, what does science mean to you? What would you say to them?
Okay, I guess for me, science is a process of discovering the unknown and then being able to replicate those discoveries.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I would say it. Science is a process that, when consistently applied, yields are predictable out. Safa's 5, and she understands that kind of talk. You know, that is actually her language system. So,
right.
I know that's right.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
And Naeem, who you remember, 7, just turned 7. He is
yeah. In fact, we have a scientist from the university is setting up a meteorology class, a demonstration, and a tour of the meteorology lab just for him.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful. Man, you see, as you can, Jabril, you can see why Original Man Scientific was originally Yeah, you can see what it's coming
you
from.
get a bit. It's like kind of like a walk through history on this
Right.
show, kind of seeing like a lot of your passion for agriculture, where it comes from, and seeing what you all have been able to do, not only from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but just taking that and then in your own way making it flesh in your own life, and then sending it, through your children and through the children in the community, and really affecting your community everywhere you go. I think it's a true testament to how you internalize the atonement process and really internalize the teaching, one day at a time. And I love what you said, going back to when you said being a student husband. And as I actually just got married in this past June, I'm sorry, July.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just like remembering that, everything you do, that you have to come at it with a student mentality. And that every day is going to present a new challenge. But there's anything of value you have is a difficulty factor attached to it. So you have to always struggle and try to better yourself every day, whether it's in your relationships, in business, and other endeavors and stuff. So I definitely thank you all for coming on the show and bearing your heart and letting us enter you all's open marriage, as you said. So that was wonderful.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, sir.
Man, it was truly an honor and a pleasure, brother. We have got to talk.
Yes, sir.
So, Brother Tariq, you got to hook us all up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just want to say, too, how proud I am of Brother Tariq, of what you and your wife and your colleagues have put together. And I just love watching the development of everything you're doing, and just keep on keeping on.
Because I do be catching science moments.
Oh,
yes, sir. Tariq science, random science, we do those.
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. How can those who are listening contact you? And what are your social media handles?
All right. We are on Facebook, S.E.E.D Inc., Tuskegee on Facebook. We do have 6 chapters, so you might find some of our other chapters on Facebook as well. We have a website. It's www.seedincorporated.com. You have to spell incorporated all the way out. If you need to email us, email to info@seedincorporated.com. And we'll leave your number.
Sure. You can reach us at 334-452-2426. And if you want to see the presentation that S.E.E.D did on food security for Brother Farrakhan, that is on our website as well.
Sure.
Jabril, you want to close?
And there's also
I'm sorry.
It's a new video on the website too about the Atonement Memorial Garden that you can see.
Oh yeah, it sure is, and it's not long, and it gives a nice overview.
Yeah, to make sure you said it's not long, right?
It's not long. Y'all know I sometimes I get lost in it.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, once again,
may Allah bless y'all, man. Please give your wives the greetings from us.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And we're going to be looking for some little ones. Putting pressure on y'all.
Yes, sir. In a little bit of time.
Exactly.
Enjoy yourself, man.
Yes,
Get
sir.
it in now.
Yes, sir.
All right. Jabril, you want to close this up?
Man. Yes, sir. Definitely going to close it out. So, family, thank y'all so much, everyone who was watching. Remember to subscribe to OMS TV on YouTube, to like and share with your friends and family so that everyone can be listening to what we're putting out in regards to scientific content. Thank you so much, Brother Scott and Erica, for coming on and blessing us with your presence. Again, this has been Agriculture in the Family. We really just highlighted not only the importance of agriculture, but how it is germane in creating a family that is going to be prosperous and successful in the future. Another cracking open of the S.T.E.M files. We are your hosts, Tariq Muhammad and Jabril Muhammad. And like we said, we're striving to do this week in and week out as much as possible, having wonderful, wonderful guests come on the show and just really bear their heart on why they love science and what they've been doing in the community for the betterment of the scientific community and the community as a whole. With that, Tariq, do we have any insight on our next guest before we close out?
Yes, I just want to say before we close out, OMS TV is not what we do. We are an R&D company. So if you want to learn more about Original Man Scientific, just go to www.omansci.com. Once again, that's omansci.com. Our next guest is Dr. Jabril Muhammad. He works for the Cancer Research Institute for the National Institutes of Health. He's going to be joining us this coming Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. And then on Thursday, we have Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad, who is the founder of the Abundant Life Clinic. He'll be joining us Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to check those next 2 episodes out.
All right. You said we got 2 doctors coming up.
2 doctors. One is the other one's mentor.
Right. Look at that. So we extending the family, all the same, extending the family. So with that, family, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Until next time, we are your hosts. This is Original Man Scientific, OMS TV. And peace out, family.
All right, peace.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
That is beautiful.